Way back in 2005, two brothers set off on a road trip that would save the world and change television.
Dave and Buster?
I'm going to give it to you, Buster. For 15 seasons and 327 episodes, Supernatural took audiences on a wild ride of family, fate, and faith with a rocking soundtrack and a seriously cool car.
But that was then, Bobo, and this is now. And yes, the show has quote-unquote ended, but we're not quite done with the journey.
No, we're not.
And that's why we're watching it all over again, or for Rob and me, for the first time,
That's right.
diving deep into every episode of Supernatural with the fine folks who made it. And we're taking you along for the ride.
Whether you like it or not. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
Spoiler!
Yeah, it is a bit of a spoiler, but hey, spoilers are fair game here.
Fine. And I'm Richard Speight Jr., and I played the Trickster, also known as the Archangel Gabriel, and I did a little bit of Loki work in there.
Okay, you know what? We're running out of time.
Okay, well, we'll be talking about the entire series, so whatever we say, accept it. You've been warned.
So buckle up and settle in.
Because this, my friend, is Supernatural, then and now.
Hey, everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
I'm Richard Speight Jr.
And we're talking about Season 1, Episode 18, Something Wicked.
That's episode 118 for the script nerds at home.
There you go. Well, let's get into it. All right. So, Dad sends the brothers coordinates for Fitchburg, Wisconsin, where children are becoming ill and falling.
Old Fitchburg.
Good old Fitchburg.
Started by the Fitches.
Old Jimmy Fitchburg.
You know what they call forks in Fitchburg?
What's that?
Pitchforks.
You know they call icebergs in Fitchburg? Ice. The two bergs just cancel each other out. In Fitchburg, Wisconsin, where children are becoming ill and falling into comas, they head to the hospital.
Bummer.
Yeah, I know. Big bummer. Well, they meet Dr. Heidecker while posing as officials from the Center for Disease Control.
Who does?
Sam and Dean.
Oh, Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Sam and Dean pay a visit to the home of the latest victim. There, they find the handprint of a supernatural being. This triggers a...
Which I might say,
Yeah.
it's the handprint
Yeah.
of the supernatural being is about a foot long and right on the windowsill. The fact that Dad didn't go, hey, there's a creepy clue right on the windowsill makes me question how careful Dad surveyed the scene.
Yeah, it's the world's largest clue. I mean, it definitely is it's a Scooby-Doo level clue.
Hey, Sammy, get over here. Look what I uncovered.
What do you think this might be? Well, this triggers a memory for Dean, and we flash back to a hotel room when they were kids. John makes Dean promise to watch out for Sam and to not leave the room. He'll be back in a few days. After the flash...
A few days, that's just bad parenting. That's a bad parent.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not the best parent.
A few days.
Yeah. Well, after the flashback, Dean tells Sam that this is a creature their dad has encountered in the past, and they were sent here to finish the job. It's personal for Dean. This time it's personal. They pull up to a local motel, and as they're unpacking the car, Dean tells Sam that they're hunting the Striga. It's something Dad...
Wait, a local motel, not one of those foreign motels that are usually dotted throughout small-town America?
No, it's a local motel, just situated locally.
Interesting.
Yeah, right there in Fitchburg. So the Striga is something that Dad faced off with years ago, but it got away. As they check into the hotel, they meet a young boy named Michael. Dean sees Michael interact with his younger brother. This, of course, reminds Dean of his relationship with Sam, his younger brother.
Why? Are they related?
Yeah.
Oh, they're related.
Yeah. In the motel...
Spoiler alert.
In the motel room, Sam is doing research and confirms what Dean said, that this is Striga, an ancient type of Albanian witch that sucks the life breath out of people. Michael's little...
I know what you're thinking right now, Rob. You're thinking, oh, so Rich is a Striga.
Yeah, no, that's why I call you Striga. You've been slowly sucking the life breath out of me for years.
Yeah, but you know what the difference is? I'm not Albanian,
That's right.
But I like it. You could have said an ancient type of Albanian rich that sucks the life breath out of
Rob,
people.
out of only Rob. Michael's little brother falls prey to the mysterious illness, and Dean gets the idea to use Michael as bait since he's likely the next target. Then Dean tells Sam the rest of the story of how, when he left him alone in the hotel room and went to play video games, he returned to find Striga trying to take his life breath.
That's why I don't let my kids play video games.
Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely a lesson learned there. That's the takeaway.
Leave people dead.
Yeah. Dean shot, but Dad arrived right in the nick of time. However, the creature got away. Dean has always regretted this and is why he now has to follow his dad's orders. Sam does more research and finds a photo of Dr. Heidecker from the 1890s. That's when the boys connect that he is the Striga.
May I say it was a nice little dip into the memory bank seeing Sam scroll through some microfiche.
Oh my God, yeah. With the it's a cool shot with the sort of the words on his face, but yeah, people don't do that anymore, do they?
No, I don't think children today, any Gen Zers, they would know microfiche, macrofiche, or fiche in general.
Fiche.
I think they
No, they wouldn't.
I remember one time when one of the microfiche machines at my university broke, and I was really bummed out. But somebody consoled me. They said, "Don't worry, there's a lot of fiche in the sea." So I knew I had another shot at finding.
You felt like just a small fiche in a big pond at your university.
A microfiche, if you will.
Well, they end up setting the trap with Michael. The creature comes in for him, and the brothers are able to blow it away. The children at the hospital start to recover, and the Striga is now dead. Well, Rich, to talk about this episode, I think that you and I are not enough.
What?
No, I think
we're plenty.
No, we need a third.
Oh,
to talk through this episode, we're bringing in a very special guest. Special reviewer.
Oh,
it's a Supernatural alum who we don't know yet because she wasn't on season 1.
You and I have never met this person?
No, we've met her lots. She's a really good friend. But in 2005, we didn't know her.
And she likes us both equally?
Well, no. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the lovely and talented Kim Rhodes. Hi, Kim.
Rhodes. Hi. I have a favorite.
Don't say it. I don't need to hear this right now.
I'll never share it with it. It changes occasionally, just to let you know.
That's the smartest move ever.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to tell anybody, this is a podcast, so you guys can't see what we see, but Kim Rhodes is bathed in a light that only an angel can produce.
Well, let's get right into it. So we're talking about something wicked. And
ooh, what? What are we thinking? What are we talking about?
The first thing that I want to say...
Like brooms and stew and...
is, Kim, did you notice Erica Carroll playing a small part in the playground at the beginning of the episode?
Was she the mama who was like, it's very sad. This is very
sad. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
That was Erica Carroll.
Awesome. Hi, Erica.
Yeah, who comes back, of course, to play another role.
Yeah.
But this is the first.
Rob, no, it's not the first. We've already seen her in season 1. She played a nurse in a hospital several episodes ago. And we pointed it out. We're like, Erica Carroll was the nurse. At the reception nurse at a hospital, and somebody CC'd or tweeted at her about that, and she said, "Oh, and then you come back again for the character you play later." She goes, "Oh, I also show up a third time."
Wow!
This is number 2 for her. And what I think is interesting is a lot of actors, especially Vancouver-based actors, ended up doing more than one Supernatural, more than one character over the years. Yeah. But she did her 2 different characters very close to each other in season 1. Which I find really trippy.
Interesting. Yeah, really trippy. Well, we love Erica, and she'll come on our show later when she plays her part that sticks.
Right, exactly. But now let's focus on something wicked.
Yeah, it was wicked.
And that thing is Rob's mustache.
And
what?
I've been wanting to make a something wicked joke for the last 5 minutes, and Rob getting nothing from Rob, so I took it on my own. Anyway. Rob, you first. No, actually, not Rob first. Forget you, Rob. Oh. Kim first.
Yes.
Let's start, Kim.
Okay.
And by the way, Kim, we're honest here.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you think. Let's talk about it. What do you think?
Okay.
Listen, broad strokes. What do you think of the episode?
Well, like I don't know if you know this, but I like to have a personal rating system that I send out into this world. On all levels. Yeah. I call it my tattoo rating system, where the top is a full body work of art that people pay to see, and you have made arrangements to preserve your skin after your demise. And the bottom of the rating would be like a home done attempt at the Tasmanian devil peeking out of the crack of your ass, done with ballpoint pen ink.
Right.
That's my skin. And I would rate. Yuck. I would rate something wicked, like a nice, maybe a Japanese watercolor koi fish on the upper arm.
Okay.
Wow.
Like a significant.
Like there's something there.
There's something there, but you can cover it up if you need to.
Right.
But it's pretty. Because that koi fish sounds colorful and pretty, right? Like it's
attractive. It's not surprising. You know what it is.
Yeah.
You've probably seen it before, but you enjoy it anyway.
Yes. Good. Accurate. Good.
Thank you.
May I also tip my cap to your rating system, which really allows for a much more intricate review than our rating system.
system.
What's your rating system?
We give it a certain kind of beard.
facial hair.
So a really good one is a full groomed beard. And
I thought the best was like full bushy, right? And then groomed is the next step down. Like a Jason Mann's would be the best, or no?
I don't know. For me, it's groomed. It's a full long beard, but it's like
shaped.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a Jason Mann's kind of, right?
Okay.
Right.
So what would you rate this episode as on your beard dar?
I would say like an extra bushy mustache.
Okay.
So it's like there's something there. It perhaps needs a little trim. Yeah. I've seen better, but it's not nothing. That's facial hair.
We're similar. I was going to give it a Bob Cratchit, which is the sideburns that go into a mustache.
Sure.
But very similar to Rob's. It's like the amount of hair is probably the same because these are neatly trimmed. Your mustache is bushy. So I'm going to go with the Bob Cratchit, and I'll tell you why. And then Rob, I want you to tell me why. And then Kim, you got to elaborate on the reasoning. For a lot of what I loved about it was the creepy nature of the villain. Yeah. Like really cool visually, very cool looking. And I love the way it played off kids' fears because like I had a visceral reaction watching it because that was your fear as a kid. If twigs were rubbing up against your window, it just scared the daylights out of me back in Nashville when there was weather and wind and thunderstorms and that kind of thing. It played into that. I also like the sort of weird sibling element to it. That, the monster would get one kid and then come after number two, which sort of created like a real looming danger. Part of what I didn't like is I didn't necessarily think that people in the town were freaked out enough about this systemic loss of child life and hospitalization of children. And I also thought like the mom, fine actress, the mom, it's not about her, but I think the way they had the mom be like, I'm really frazzled. And then a strange guy in a leather coat's like, let me give you a lift. She's like, okay.
Cool.
I'll leave my son here with the other creepy guy in the other biker outfit.
Yeah, when children are dying right now anyway, so I'm not going to be overly productive.
And she runs a motel where all good people hang out. You know what I mean? Like it just a couple of those things kind of bumped for me in the overall story. So that's why it became not a full beard. Kim, walk me through your reasoning.
Yeah, I thought too much. And when I'm watching something that my brain gets ahead of, I do that. I think too much. I'm like, we can do spoilers on this podcast.
Yeah.
The old lady, not the witch. The doctor, definitely the bad guy. The thing, not dead yet. Now the things that, like, it just was 1 second behind my awareness, and it made me a little like, I knew it was coming. And then there's also the little things like, I don't know. I thought of you, Rich, when I was watching this because I've started the rewatch now. Like the twigs didn't hit the window. The whole tree just rotated back and forth so you could tell that it's like...
And the director's going, even windier. So he's like, Grip's like shaking it even harder.
Because the whole
back
tree
then,
was just slamming. There was no wind. It was just boom, boom.
Yeah.
Cut. Hey, Jerry, a little lighter on the limb slam. Sorry.
Exactly.
I mean, back then, probably smoking.
Yeah.
Back to one.
You said something about that you knew the doctor was going to be the bad guy, or you anticipated that.
Yeah.
I did too. And when I knew, I mean, I guess it was a kind of maybe I picked up it.
When he walked slowly through the frame and the frame lingered on his face.
Bingo.
And you realized how unnaturally coiffed he was. That's when
and he was just weirdly static. Like, on that shot where she's like, good night, doctor. Yeah. He said nothing and turned and like robotically walked. Right. And then they pan off and find Jared and Jensen. I'm like, that dude's the bad guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. I also want to know how the old lady's cross accidentally got upside down. I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out how the cross accidentally got upside down and why the staff of the hospital left for the night, leaving this poor old woman stuck in her fucking wheelchair.
The boys got in there real easy. Yeah, you're right. All that needed to do was just give it a touch and it flipped around.
How did it get flipped up? How did that happen? What was happening?
Why is my dream catcher glued to my ceiling? I don't know. Stuff happens with these objects that should not be like that. My favorite was how easy it was for him to correct it.
Yeah.
He tapped it.
To touch. Yeah. I agree with everything you guys just said. I will add that the moment to me that I always think is funny is when people say the name of the show or the movie in the movie or show. And this is the first time someone says Supernatural. Sam's like,
this might not be anything supernatural.
And for me, it always takes me out of it when they say the name. You know what I mean? Like, these aren't Star Wars, Luke.
Thus the title. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of cheesy, but and also I didn't feel like baby Sam and Dean looked like Sam and Dean. That was just a little. Normally the casting is so good about that kind of thing, but I just didn't buy that was actual young Sam and young Dean in the flashback.
Gotcha.
Again, I was thinking too hard on that. I'm like, somebody's never been poor because you don't fucking pour out SpaghettiOs. You don't pour them in the garbage when you're poor.
I blame the director for that. Because I saw that, I'm like, that. First of all, there's okay. Let's talk about that scene, Kim, because there's several things in that scene that bump for me.
So mad.
Number one, when Sam goes, "I want Lucky Charms," and he goes, "We're out." He goes, "I saw the box." I'm like, he turns around, the box is on the counter. It wasn't like Sam, Dean did nothing to hide that. I'm like, why wouldn't you just put it in a drawer or do something if you're really trying to hide the thing?
Yeah.
And number two, when he dumped the SpaghettiOs, I thought the same thing. I'm like, dumbass, what you gonna eat? You're the one who said you saved yourself a bowl. Like, you guys are broke. You're gonna dump out the SpaghettiOs. The only reason why you do that is to dump them out and go, there, now you're not getting any food or something like you're making some statement.
Yeah.
But I thought the same thing. I'm like, what a weird choice to have him dump out the food.
Right. And so the idea is that Dean saw the monster and Jeffrey Dean shoots the monster, but I guess he doesn't die?
Doesn't die because the monster has to be mid-eating the kid. And when he looked up and saw Jensen, or young Dean, he immediately was no longer eating. So he was no longer killable.
Okay.
And the one thing I thought was interesting about that too, Rob, and we're circling around this scene, is Dad made this big thing about don't leave your brother. But Dean leaving is not why that monster got in.
Right.
Because Sam was in a different room. He was in a bedroom.
Yeah.
That monster would have come in that window anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't, these kids who have been absconded or, eaten by this monster or made sick by this monster in other stories in that episode, none of them are by themselves. Like the kid in the teaser was upstairs. His dad was downstairs. It didn't mean... I thought that was a weird thing to sort of hang your hat on, like, Dean.
Well, Dean thought it was his fault.
You dropped the ball.
Kid. And that's what he says. Was sorting through as an adult, And that's, I think the takeaway is it's not your fault, Dean.
That was that also to me was a little heavy-handed. I was like, and also to blow some smoke up some non-present asses for a moment, Jensen and Jared are good enough actors so that you don't need to spoon feed every ounce of here's where the trauma came from.
Right.
They can play I'm carrying some shit without you having to see every single second of it. We don't need to monologue their past. And I felt like that was a little it pulled me away as a parent because I was so deeply like, dude, you're fucking up now. You're not reacting in a way that we're later going to have to forgive. You are fucking up by blaming your kids for you don't have a better mental capacity to handle this monster hunting by now than to blame your kids.
Yeah. Well, he's just not the best. He's not the best father, but he tries. He tries. It's hard.
Well,
out there.
to dig deep on that a little bit, not to be overly nerdy here, but I always felt like in the biblical parallel here, Dad likes Dean better.
Oh.
I always thought.
Wow.
So that like him flipping out about, and maybe that's why he's harder on him, because he feels like you're me. You should know what I do.
Right.
Like, I'm requiring you to think like I think, even though you're a boy. I don't know. It just seemed like knowing the story for 15 seasons and having been around those characters as we all have for so many years, it always seemed like Sammy got blown off by Dad and left in a hotel room by himself constantly while Dean and Dad went off to fight and hunt. So that I thought Dad's reaction seemed, I guarantee you, I'm going to get taken to school by real fans who know this better than I do.
That's why I'm not talking.
That was just my gut check. Yeah. Well, I'm Rob Benedict, and this is what I think. And also, was the old woman blind in the hospital?
No, she was sleeping with her peepers open.
But didn't you think she was blind?
I thought she was blind.
She was sleeping with her peepers open.
I know she said that line. I know she said that line, Kim. But I like.
Say it again. I enjoy it so much. I was sleeping with my peepers open.
It's better than sleeping with your peeper out. You know what I'm saying?
They definitely were. They were cloudy. They were very cloudy looking.
She had terrible cataracts. Like, don't bury the headline. She doesn't have whatever internal problems. She has cataracts.
Yeah.
Because Dean leaned so close to her.
Yeah.
And she still, and even when she talked to him, she kind of had that 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, she's blind. And they kind of over-explained, like,
how did she know that her crucifix was
That's what
down?
I'm leading to. How did she know?
No, she's not.
I think she is
blind.
a monster.
She was not. No, she was not blind. She just was one of those people that can sleep with their eyes wide open.
That are milky white eyeballs. I think she is a monster, and they just
maybe
there's
they'll come
a story
back to
that went on in a parallel universe. That was our A story.
But as it is, it was just a horrible mislead.
Well, no, because remember when the first time Dean saw her, she turned around and looked at him. She turned around and gave the evil glare. I am evil.
Fix my cross.
But wasn't she looking at him as if to say, I hear something, but I can't make it out because I'm blind?
It never occurred. Let's say I don't disagree. It's just that had not been my assumption.
Well, I'm definitely wrong because the woman knew she had an upside down cross on her wall, so I'm wrong.
What do you guys think of the boy? The boy who's kind of a smart ass who then comes around at the end.
Nice job.
Yeah, I thought he was a good actor, good little actor.
Nice job. Yeah, good actor.
Yeah,
did a nice job and had some nice moments like, you take care of your brother, so would I. Like some really sweet stuff.
That was sweet. I wondered if he's still acting because he was really, really good little actor. Well, you know who else did a really good job is our co-host today, Rich, Kim Rhodes.
Kim Rhodes nailed it with the review. You've reestablished an entire new review system.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be then bring me back just in case you're like, you know what this episode needs is a tattoo rating system. And
absolutely.
No, listen, you will be back, Kim. I mean, like it or not, this is what we're doing. We're bringing back cool people who are involved in the show. So because Jody Mills, when is Jody Mills' first episode?
Season 5.
Right. We're not waiting to season 5 to have Kim Rhodes on a lot. That's my point. This is how we get you and some other cool people involved in this podcast because the fans, they get tired of a lot of Robin Rich jibber jabber. You know what I mean? They need some other people.
And I have to thank you because I am now re-binging. I'm now into episode 4 of season 2 because once I watch this, I'm re-binging again. So I will be much more equipped to answer questions at conventions.
Great.
Great.
I
was just say you seem pretty damn equipped for this podcast, but yeah, now I see what you're saying.
I already can't wait. I can't wait till the next time you're on. So please, good.
Kim Rhodes, everybody, thank you so much, Kim. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, hold on. We're coming right back.
Hey, this is Richard Spate. You know what? It's 2024. It's a brand new year, and I bet you made some New Year's resolutions, and I bet one of them was to eat healthier. Well, you can get cranking on that resolution right now, my friend, with Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, the prep work, the cooking fatigue. I'm getting tired just talking about it. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you will have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart this resolution off right. Forget frantic lunch prep and rush dinner making. That stinks. Factor's 2-minute meals, yes, I said 2 minutes, are your secret weapon in the new year. You get to fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals all delivered right to your door. It doesn't get any easier than that. And Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep you going no matter what's on the schedule. So I know what you're asking, Rich, how do I tap into this Factor magic? You head to factormeals.com/SPNTAN50 and use code SPNTAN50 to get 50% off. That's a lot off. That's code SPNTAN50 at factormeals.com/SPNTAN50 for 50% off. Make that resolution happen now and make it happen at a discount. Fantastic food that's healthy and delicious and delivered right to my door. Now that is how you start the new year off right.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode.
Wow, dude, for starters, I could just listen to Kim talk about the phone book for an hour and a half. She's so entertaining.
She's so entertaining. I love the tattoo rating review, and she just looks lovely. She's a lovely person.
She's lovely and fun and just cracks me up. So awesome to have her.
We will have her back for sure.
Speaking of having somebody back, we have a guest we've had before. And why? Because the man knows everything about the show.
Yeah, and he's been a producer on Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, The Crossing, AP Bio, The Lost Symbol, and 241 episodes of Supernatural.
Which is funny to think that that's not all of them. But that's a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Aronauer.
All right, we have a great guest, a returning guest, a recurring character on our show. Please give it up for producer extraordinaire Todd Aronauer. Hello, Todd.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good, man. Good.
Good man. Oh, we said good man at the same time.
Good man.
Jinx.
So we're throwing you right into the end of season 1. We're talking about something wicked. I know we're asking a lot for you to go back in your memory 15 years, but do you remember closing in on the end of season 1, what the vibe on the set was? Did it feel like, the machine was humming? Did you know yet that you were picked up for additional episodes, or what was the vibe at this time towards the end of season 1?
Interesting. This was a time where we had already been picked up for the back half of the season, because the
that's
first
cool.
half we were picked up for, I think it was pilot plus 12, pilot plus 10. I don't remember what the initial pickup was, but we had gotten the back half of the pickup, which this episode was in the back half. So we knew that we had the whole season. What we didn't know at this point, there were so many things that were up in the air, not just as your normal run of the first year show, just worried about everything and the unknowns, ratings, whatever. We didn't know if there was going to be a network. We didn't know what was happening with WB.
Right.
Because we were on the WB for the first year. And during our first year, actually, we went through a couple of different executives that we were getting notes from during our run. So,
that had to be weird.
Yeah, we knew something was afoot. Something was happening behind the scenes.
So I got to ask a question about that. So when you're getting notes, you got big bosses swapping at the top. Are the notes dramatically different? Like, is one guy like, hey, less Dean, more Sammy? And then the next guy's like, more Sammy, less Dean.
No, in those regards, there was a time in the earlier episode that I did the podcast with you guys. I talked about the being a tight turnaround and getting notes very quickly and going through cuts very quickly. Right. There was a time during that quick turnaround where we weren't getting notes fast enough, or we thought we were under the understanding that we were getting network notes. We got network notes. And then after locking and moving forward with the rest of completion of the episodes, we'd get a call or an email. And Eric, where he would say, wait, we have to implement a couple of this guy's notes. And we're like, we got his notes before. And it was like the head of the network at the time. Well, he didn't get his notes before, but here are his notes now.
That's politics. That's network politics right there.
Yeah. So we knew that everything was going quickly. But as far as being different from one regime to the next, during the season, they generally try to keep things going as it was. They're not going to dramatically make a shift mid-season in general, because the scripts are already written and the shows are already shot from when this new regime comes in. So they need to analyze what's been done, what's being delivered, what the notes were before, and how they want. They might start giving differing notes in the script stage and in the cut stage, where they can make shifts here and there if they have a different outlook on where the end result is going to be for that season. But there's only so much of a shift it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Did you ever find that there was headbutting in terms of maybe not the bosses swapping spots, but you have a network and you have a studio, right? You have two different entities.
The studio is Warner Brothers, and at this time, the network is WB, soon to be CW.
Was there any who's the highest ranking official in that case? I mean, was there any headbutting between those guys?
It's the network. The network is the one that's buying the show. The network's the one that's putting it on their platform. So ultimately it's the network's final call. The studio can, in their best efforts, try to discuss things further if there's creative differences, if there's certain things that are... In general, the studio should be acting as the producer's partners, the partners in the show, in creating the show. It's the studio, essentially the studio's money. We say the network is buying it, but the studio is the one that's putting up the budget.
Right.
Which is why the studio is the one that ultimately owns that product.
Right.
Right. Question. So now you're deep into season 1. Like Robbie asked you, you know, you got the back 9 or whatever it is. You got a full season of TV. You don't know about your network. This is episode 18. So thus far, this question kind of encompasses all of the episodes. But do you have a favorite? A season 1 standout episode? A favorite episode?
I don't have one standout. When you know what? When I was told we were going to be doing this episode, this is one that doesn't necessarily stand out, but it's no knock on the episode. It's just that there was so many. The ones that stand out the most are sort of the ones that are more of the outliers, the ones that either had the major problems that you don't want to remember, but you just do for everything that you've put into it, or the ones that were great and you love any portion of it that just sticks out in your brain.
Right.
But looking back on this episode, there are a bunch of things that just stick out that I remember very clearly. It all just kind of meshes together because a lot of things I was just, I thought that was in a different episode.
Well, what are those things? Let's talk about that. So what stood out to you as you reviewed this episode?
Right off the bat, when they drive into Fitchburg, this is just kind of something that sticks in my brain, probably nobody else's, because I actually had a still frame of it on my board throughout my time there. It was when the boys drive in to the town, Fitchburg.
Yeah.
There's a street sign that says Fitchburg, and then there's a big billboard that says, "Welcome to Fitchburg."
Right.
Well, there were different departments that built those signs, and there wasn't a clear discussion of the spelling of Fitchburg because you could spell Fitchburg several different ways. There's one way to spell Fitchburg, Wisconsin, but in the same shot, 2 different signs spelled differently.
Oh my God.
That's
I didn't notice that.
So we had the visual effects that to fix it. But that was something that I had before rewatching the show. I would not have been able to tell you what episode that was in. And it was, I saw it every day, anytime I looked at my board.
That's great.
Funny. That's great. Well, the monster in this one I thought was particularly scary. It really, scary costumes, scary effects.
Hey, Riley, question for you. Yeah. Did it remind you of that Star Wars character, the Emperor, like, the Force is strong with you?
Totally. Yeah.
Who's that? What's that character?
Chancellor Palpatine, who becomes...
Palpatine. Yeah.
Becomes the Emperor, evil Emperor. Yeah, for sure. Now, that freaked me out. I watched it late at night last night. It got me. Always.
Playing this monster, yes, it was a guy, the actor, the doctor, but the actual monster coming in like that was a stunt actor, a female, Jeannie Eppers.
Really?
Is like a world-renowned stunt actor.
Oh, wow.
What a great piece of trivia that is.
She's won awards. She's been honored many times over.
So was the doctor ever the monster?
Only when the bill showed up.
That's insurance. But the doctor knew in his mind who he was. He was always putting on...
Right, but he never quite played the monster in real life.
No, I don't believe so.
What monster in season 1 stands out for you as being sort of one of your favorites?
I loved when the Yellow Eyes goes into Dad. And
no, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to Yellow Eyes, have we, Rich?
No, not at all.
Can't wait. I've heard a lot about that. Can't wait to go there.
So just when Dad comes back, it really brings so much just emotional tension. It shows the love between the boys and their dad and the connection there. It just instills so much, and not necessarily like monster, but it's just the way he plays it. It was just iconic moments.
Yeah. Anytime Jeffrey Dean's in it too, it's just
so good.
Yeah.
Although it's trippy seeing him like so clean shaven because they're playing the flashback of it all.
Young Jeffrey Dean.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wonder if Jensen's team is, Robbie Thompson and them are watching these episodes to get clearer pictures of what they want the prequel to be. That'll be interesting to see.
Clean shaven.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of what the story they're going to be telling when it hopefully gets picked up.
Yeah, they're definitely having those discussions if they haven't already for what season 1 going to be.
Yeah.
Networks generally want to know what the story arcs are going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You have to have a whole Bible that goes along with it.
Yeah.
I do think that, like, to Rob's point, this monster was especially, and maybe because the monster's relationship was with children, also makes it incredibly eerie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It does, and because their sickness manifests as pneumonia. I actually had pneumonia last year. I've gotten it a couple of times, but last year I got it during the summer. So in my head, watching this episode, I was like, maybe it was Striga.
Yeah, forget COVID.
Yeah.
No, we were just talking about the flashbacks with Jeffrey Dean, and one of the things that falls on the post production team is sort of the look of what that, obviously the makeup and hair and do their thing, but the color correction that goes into this, and I think Sparky is the
Sparkle.
Sparkle's the color correction. Stephen P. Arco. So Sparkle, our color corrector for the entire time the show was running. Obviously, he's the one dialing up the knobs. But who picks the palette? Because I know that it's got to be something that's consistent, right? So is that you?
It's just sort of a collaborative effort. We talk about it at the script stage. What we want those anytime it's a flashback, or in this show, if we go to an alternate time, anything that's different than normal present day. Even going to present day in French Mistake, do we want it to look like the show, or do we want it to look more reality based, give a different hue to it? So anytime there is a flashback, it's a discussion from top down that we talk about throughout the entire process, because production on the set, they want to know if they need to light it differently, and wardrobe and set dressing, what kind of colors. And then every step of the way, when we're in just rough cuts, it gets discussed again. The director has input, the writer has input.
Well, I was going to ask about the director. The director is not, any TV director is a guest in the house unless it's, Phil Segrisha or Bob Singer or Kim Manners.
Unless it's a producing director, yeah.
Right. So how much of a voice does the director, a guest director, have in that decision making? Or is that something they just go, hey, whatever you decide, I'll make it work? I mean, where do they fall in that conversation?
It varies. It varies on a lot of things. We have the discussions up front, and when we're prepping, and there are certain questions in the initial meetings that the director fields and says their opinions, and there are certain discussions. There's also a tone meeting before we even go to camera that the executive producer, writer, DP, and director have, and they sit down, talk about every single scene, the themes of the scene, and everything that the producers and creator of the show, or showrunner at the time, feel that the look, the tone, the style, and all of that stuff for every scene, even a present day scene, regardless. Talk about shot lists depending on how granular they want to go. So for color correction like this, in first season, by mid-season, the pilot had a very interesting, very unique look that our DP for the pilot, Aaron Schneider, brought a awesome look to the show, very unique and very fitting for the subject matter. And then trying to reestablish that, but on a series schedule. Everything gets factored into time and budget and resources available to do it within that time and budget. So everything becomes sort of a negotiation or a compromise, or how can we give you that same look in the shorter amount of time that we have? You don't have as much time to set up, because a pilot gets shot over 12, 15 days, whereas an episode gets 7 to 8 days. 8 if you're lucky. Sometimes you get a second unit or a half day added onto that. So the script is the same length. It just all has to be done in a short amount of time and a smaller budget. So throughout first season, Surge is finding what works best and going in and out of scenes. I would say first season, but throughout the first few seasons, you'll see that color correction shifted quite a bit from one season to the next. So some of that from season 1 season 2 looks very different, where it was a new regime in the network where they wanted us to put more color into it, and not so dark, not so moody, not so contrasty. And then the end of season 2, it was just like, I think we leaned into those notes a little too much. Let's pull it back some.
I thought the hospital in this episode was especially dark and bleak. It works in a horror sort of way. It's definitely, it wasn't ER. You know what I mean? It didn't look like, or Chicago Med or whatever the shows that are on now in hospitals.
Grey's Anatomy.
There you go. Yeah, it was dark and bleak. There weren't a lot of people around. The boys could easily get in and out of rooms.
New Amsterdam.
The way Supernatural is, and throughout the run, is every episode can be different than the one before or the one after. They don't all have to be. And what I loved about the show and why I wanted to stay with it for so long is because it has that variety. Because you can have a cartoon episode, you can have an episode where the boys come into reality and are their actual selves. You can have an episode where you jump from sitcom to drama to different shows that are on TV at the time. And there's so many different variations. The Ghostfacer episode where we are fully immersed into a reality show.
Right.
So every episode needs that discussion that brings us back to color. Like, how can we sell this more realistically? How can we make this more of just a fun experience for people that are watching? And so every episode, including this one, including Something Wicked, you got to make them spooky. You got to build the drama in one way or another. And you can always scare people with adding more shadows. It's what you don't see that's scarier than what you do.
Well, speaking of shadows, the Something Wicked, the scariest recurring shot in this episode, I think, is that the tree that then becomes that claw branch-like hand on the window, terrifying. Kind of remind me of Poltergeist a little bit.
And we have those discussions, and sometimes it's even written in the stage direction in the script stage from the writers. And that was something that we wanted it to do that. I don't remember if it was specifically written in the script in this episode, but yeah, we definitely have those discussions of what are some of the iconic moments from movies and stuff that scared the crap out of you in the past, and because we wanted to have that same visceral reactions. We want it to evoke those kind of memories. We don't want it to sometimes be too close to it, but sometimes the way this show is, we want to mimic that stuff.
Yeah. And this season one really does that a lot. There's a lot of sort of callbacks to classic horror films, callbacks to The Shining and, obviously Poltergeist, things like that. So the music in this one I thought was especially kind of haunting. Jay Greska in rare form in this one really leans into the piano. I thought that there's also this sort of weird, almost out-of-tune kind of guitar pluck at one point. Is that a discussion? Do you go, hey, Jay, let's lean into that in this episode? Or what's your conversation with the music, the composer?
So in general, just because I can't speak specifically about this one episode, but because we switched from Chris to Jay, they each watched each other's episodes, and it was great having them because, again, on this type of show, because every episode could be different, there were some themes that were consistent from episode to episode where they borrowed and lended to each other and from each other. But there was also the episodes that were kind of off to themselves. So not only were we playing with color and having those discussions with color and how we could utilize that to tell our story, but also the sound and music.
Are there stock sounds? Are there obviously there's recurring music themes? Chris and Jay have talked about that a little bit, but are there stock sounds, sound effect sounds? And I know that libraries changed dramatically from the start of the show. You guys your editors probably had a small library, and now then they had a massive digital arsenal by the end of season 15. But is there a gun sound, a shotgun sound, like Sam's bag? Are there sounds that are specific to the Supernatural palette?
Yeah, actually, that would be that could be a podcast in and of itself, just talking about the sounds of the show. I had mentioned last time I was with you guys that Bruce and I were like the only two, I specifically said crew members that were on since the pilot. But speaking of sound, there are a few people in our sound department at Warner Brothers that did work on the pilot and throughout the series. So I just wanted to specify that.
No, we'll have to get those guys on. I know, Rob,
Yeah.
you met those dudes anytime you went to do ADR. Like, those would be the guys in the room.
Yeah.
You know?
I always loved those guys.
Yeah.
That was the only time I saw them.
And these are awesomely talented people that were huge parts of the entire series. So Michael Lachey was our sound supervisor. He had a team working with him. There's Karen Foster and Mark Meyer. I believe both of them also worked for the pilot and throughout the series. So we would have the discussions in the spotting sessions where Michael would bring up, wait, what city are we in? Okay, because I hear in the track, you guys put in loons. Why are there loons? Are you trying to tell the audience that we're near a
lake?
Near a lake. And the assistant editor's like, I just fucking put birds in there. I don't know what they are. So,
I love it. That's great.
side conversations of specifically what the
Bird species.
what time of year is it?
Yeah.
But we would make fun of him. But he was a master. He's an artist at this because it is a very different sound where different parts of the country, different states, even different parts of any individual state, you're going to have different sounds that are going to tell you, are you near water? Are you near a highway?
Yeah.
So the recurring sounds, there was always the ones that always came up. So Dean's gun, the end of an act as that metallic.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy one to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that were recurring, they would always bring that same sound back. Cell phones.
And the different guns had different sounds, I'm sure. Like the guns they used in this to kill the monster were this like concentrated whatever bullets that had special things in them. I can't remember what they called them, but that's got to be different than a normal shotgun, I would imagine, you know?
Yeah, whether it's salt or the demon killing gun, the Colt, or any type of gun has different sounds. And that's something else that would also be brought up in the spotting session. It sounds like you're using a revolver to make that sound.
Right.
Isn't that a Glock that we see on camera?
Another annoyed sound editor.
Man, it's just like, I got other to do. You guys are the sound guys.
I'm not a gun guy.
You guys put a gun in there. Next time I'll just say gun.
I'll just go click, snap, poop. Hey,
we have to get the sound guys. We have to get the sound guys on.
We'll get those guys.
That's fascinating stuff. You know, just to for our listeners, just to clarify, like there's the composer who's making original music, and then there's this music supervisor who's really clearing all the pre-made songs that they use, you know, the
licensed music.
Yeah, licensed music, Kansas and what have you. And then there's the sound designers who's making the bird chirps and the dialogue sound right and the cars driving by outside.
It is such detailed work that if you get to visit a post-sound studio, it looks like they've got an orchestra of tracks because the tracks are enormous. They've cut every stem, every line of dialogue is isolated, all the sound effects. I mean, it's you take for granted when you click on the boob tube that you're watching something and like, oh, the sound is there. It's not. They've built the entire wall of sound from the ground up behind the dialogue that they've recorded. You know, they're not recording the live stuff. So it's really fascinating. We will absolutely get those guys in here. One final question. And Rob kind of touched on this with the monster being creepy, but I'm just curious myself. That effect of the glowing mouth, any of that practical or all VFX after the fact? Because I feel like there would need to be a light source coming out of the mouth.
For this episode, I think we did try to do something practical in the mouth, and we enhanced it with visual effects.
Yeah.
And is that Ivan doing that? Ivan up in Vancouver doing that?
So this was season 1. This is a whole nother discussion because in season 1, we had a visual effects team that Ivan was the visual effects supervisor with Stargate, a visual effects facility.
Before he took over.
Starting in season 2, we switched over to bring everything in-house. We bought all the equipment, and Ivan was the visual effects supervisor for our essentially another department that was totally dedicated to us. They had trailers set up next to the stages and for the rest of the run of the show.
Right.
Was Stargate, you say, was the name of the first season, the company? And were they in LA or in Vancouver?
They're all over the place. So now they have facilities in a lot of different cities. But we had somebody that was LA based that would come to us for our remote calls and conversations. We would have spotting sessions for visual effects also.
I will tell you, as a guy who, and Rob, you're as a couple of actors, I would have been none too pleased if they walked over and like, okay, here's this battery-operated light bulb. Put this back in the area of your throat that makes you barf.
Something along those lines. It wasn't. I don't think it was battery operated. It might have been one of those little glow sticks that they put back there.
Ugh.
But yeah, and it glowed a little bit from what I remember. But we certainly wanted to enhance that more.
Yeah. Well, you had that the stunt lady doing that.
Penny Eppers.
Yeah. Listen, Todd, thank you for coming in and talking to us. You're a man who knows all, and you either have like a steel trap mind, or we're doing you a great service by making you recount all this, and you're going to live longer and have a clearer memory as you grow old. Todd Aronauer, thank you so much, buddy. Thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
This is Jared Padalecki stopping in to say hi and let you know that we've got to take a quick break. Thanks for listening. Now, back to the episode.
Okay, so Todd just opened a bunch of doors that we got to walk through at some point. We got to get the sound guys in here.
Yes, and I want to get the colorist in there to talk about that.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to get Sparkle in here. You know, he color corrected every single episode.
Is that
of
right?
Supernatural. Yeah, that's an interesting guy to have in here. Stephen P. Arkle, Sparkle.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so great. And great to have Todd on again. He's a wealth of information. I love that he remembers all this stuff.
Not only is he a wealth of information about the episode we were discussing, he was correcting us on some of the foibles from our previous episodes of this podcast.
Yeah,
He's like a podcast expert.
Yeah, more of that. Well, you know what else has a lot of information for us? A little section I like to call mythology. So it's a type of Albanian vampiric witch, as Sam points.
What is?
The Striga is a type of Albanian vampiric witch, as Sam points out.
A Striga is a kind of witch. They're Albanian, but legends about them date back to ancient Rome. They feed off of spiritus vitae.
Spirit what?
Vitae. It's Latin. It translates to breath of life, kind of like your life force or essence.
Can I say I never knew that vampire could be an adjective? Vampiric?
Vampiric witch. Yeah, I always tell people that, if you know my friend Rich, he's kind of vampiric, beard.
I guess that makes sense because I always refer to you as Frankenstein-esque.
Frankensteinian.
And score. Frankenstein.
However, the Striga, the male word for Striga is Shrigu or Shrigen, according to...
So you are a Striga.
That's right. Aww. According to lore, it's only mentioned that the Striga can only give the life force back once it is taken. So when the children are healed when they kill the Striga, that's just something that Supernatural kind of made up.
Yeah, but that's the Striga. What about the Shrigan, the dudes?
That's a whole different thing. They're just... out playing pool all night, partying with the fellas.
Classic Shrigan. Yeah.
Get ready. It's time for Fun Facts! The Sam and Dean dealing with unfinished business from their youth was a separate element that the writers thought made sense for the Striga story.
It sure did. Did you know that the boys and the old lady call the inverted cross in her room a crucifix? A crucifix is a cross with the image of Jesus. This was just a regular cross. Shame on them.
The old lady... The old creepy lady with the cross in her room is staying in room 237, and that's a reference to the movie The Shining. It's the room where young Danny is attacked by the old decaying woman.
Okay, this next fun fact, I want you to know that I figured out in the middle of the show.
Did you?
I was watching it, and I was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
And I paused, and I Googled it. I found a screenshot, and I'm like, I'm sure they're going to know this for our podcast, but I'm going to have it in my back pocket if they don't.
Amazing.
I knew it immediately, and that is this. North Haverbrook, Brockway, and Ogdenville, all towns that Sam mentions as places where the Striga had previously attacked kids. He finds these towns when he's looking at the microfiche in the library. Well, these three towns are all from a Simpsons episode. That's right, this is a Simpsons reference. It's referencing an episode called Marge versus the Monorail. It's the episode when a character played by Phil Hartman plays the music man, like a snake oil salesman who comes to town and convinces everybody that they need a monorail, and he sings a song about it, and it's so fun and funny and classic. And this is from that episode. All three of those towns are cities.
They're cities that the monorail connects to?
he mentions, he's like,
I've sold monorails to Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by gum, it put them on the map.
that's what he says in the thing, and then shows a map of it. And that's in there because at the time, Eric Kripke was a big Simpsons fan.
And so is Richard Speight
And that was,
Jr.
of course, Simpsons, huge. During that era, that was Simpsons golden, golden
it really
era.
was.
It was the best stuff ever.
Oh, that's amazing.
Anyway, so I want the record to reflect that I knew a fun fact before it was handed to me on a sheet of paper. Maybe the last time, but I knew a fun fact.
It's been noted.
I spotted something,
It's
Rob.
been noted, sir. It's been put in your file.
Rich 1, Rob 0.
Well, I wasn't playing, but okay. The title of the episode, of course, is a reference to Shakespeare's Macbeth, which contains the line, "Toil and trouble, fire burns and cauldron bubble. By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes."
Not nearly as cool as a Simpsons reference, just saying.
Well, and I already knew that one. I knew that that it was from Shakespeare, so Rob won, Rich won. Tied up.
Of course you did.
It's all tied.
Theater nerd. Ray Bradbury published a book in 1962, the year Rob graduated college, called Something Wicked This Way Comes, about two friends and their experience with a carnival magician who feeds on people's life force.
How's your career going as a carnival magician, by the way?
It's great. I'm getting paid in cotton candy. I've never been better.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And don't forget to tell your friends. We're doing a podcast, and you're listening to it.
Don't keep it a secret. This is not a secret. You go tell your friends. Shout it from the mountaintops, unless you're not mountain adjacent, in which case just get somewhere safe but elevated where the voice will carry and speak from your diaphragm and be sure people know about it. In fact, do yourselves a solid. Hey, do us a solid. Tell your friends, make them listen, you listen, then you follow, which is parlance that really means subscribe in podcast language.
That's right.
So follow the podcast, which means subscribe to the podcast. Doesn't cost you any money. Podcasts are free, but nonetheless, follow, which also means subscribe. And then you'll get to hear it when it drops.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yep.
This episode stars Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester and Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester.
The guest stars are Jeffrey Dean Morgan as John Winchester, Ridge Kenipe as young Dean. If I butchered that, Ridge, my sincerest apologies. Alex Ferris as young Sam, Adrian Ho as Dr. Heidegger.
Something Wicked was written by Daniel Nauf, directed by Whitney Rancic.
Editing by David Ekstrom, music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of the episode featured two great songs, but hell if Rob and I know, because we watched the dumb thing on Netflix and don't get to hear the real music. But if you watched it on TV or on the DVD, you heard Rock Bottom by UFO and Road to Nowhere by Ozzy Osbourne.
Sounds like that would have been great.
Wouldn't that have been cool?
Yeah. The episode first aired on April 6th, 2006.
This episode of Supernatural, Then and Now, was hosted and executive produced by Richard Speight Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine. Written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Boudet.
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
This episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios, the piano tuner, and every child I have in every room of this
And
house.
my bookshelf wallpaper.
Bingo.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
For news on this and other podcasts, follow Story Mill Media on Instagram and Twitter. Podcast credits. I don't have to read
You
that
don't have to
part.
read that part.
If only we could find out.
If there was a machine where we could look that up.
Could access his resume.
Something Wicked was written by Daniel Nauf, directed by...
Ridge Kenipe. What?
Yep.
What do you, any guesses? Kenipe? What do you guys...
Canopy? Sucks when you're trying to burn somebody and you screw up both words. How's your career as a Kunavul magician? Oh boy. Hey everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
And I'm Rich. Man,
who are
how do you
you?
mess up your own name?
I've got a blooper already.
Oops. Adrian Ho as Dr. Heidegger. or is it Adrian Ho?
Or is it Adrain?
As,
It's spelled Adrain.
sorry. Steve.
Adrain Ho.
Steve, did you make this name up? That's very Frankensteinian of you.
Well,
Oh my
it's
God.
on brand.
So great. So then you'll get that off to Steve and away we go.
Story Mill Media.